Welcome to the Teapot Reads. I'm the Teapot. My name's Sam. This is what I'm currently reading, and I am so happy to see you today. Welcome back if you're returning, and welcome for the first time if this is your first time here. I'm normally pretty good about getting rid of books that are on my shelves that I don't like, because if I don't like the book, why would I want to keep it on my shelf? There's no reason I don't want to look at it. I probably don't want to reread it. It probably brings me bad feelings to just have it sitting there. And I'm also pretty good about culling out books that I don't think I'm going to get to. And I've done an unhauling video, which I will link above and below if you're interested. But I was thinking the other day that there are some books on my shelves that I don't love and that I've kept for other reasons. And I was personally curious to see how many books I had like that. And I also was like, maybe you guys would be curious. So I have here, I think it's 8 books. I have 8 books here that I actually dislike, but have chosen to keep on my shelves and probably will not be unhauling anytime soon. So I wanted to talk about them, and I wanted to talk about why. The number one reason I keep books that I dislike is because of how they look, which is terrible. I'm very vain, but a pretty book is much more likely to sit on my shelf than an ugly book. Not all pretty books make the cut. I got rid of Star Daughter, I think last year, because I was like, this book, I hated it. I hated this book. I was very excited for it, and I hated it. And even though it's got a gorgeous, gorgeous cover, I don't need it on my shelf. Blah. But there are some books that I couldn't hate enough, basically. So, number one, I don't actually dislike this. I think of all the books on this list, this one I actually had the most enjoyment reading, but objectively I don't think it's a very good book. And while I have later books in the series, I'm not eager to read them. I was, but I've kind of changed my tune on that. But it's from Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. It's very pretty. I love this. This is the Bookish Box edition, I think. Yes, Bookish Box exclusive edition. And I adore these covers. I think they're just stunning, and the edges are very pretty as well. But this book was like kind of really boring, and I don't really get the hype. It's not super well written. It was just such a fine, average book. There are moments that I loved, but there were a lot of moments that I was like, whatever, moving on, I guess. I will at some point be continuing with the series because I have books 2 and 3, and I'm planning to buy 4 when the matching edition is released, which I think is next month. But it is so low on my priority list. It is, however, probably one of my prettiest covers that exists. So then we have a book that I actually have 3 copies of, and that is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. This is the Illumicrate edition, which is very pretty. You know, I love it. Again, I love pretty books. I was so disappointed when I read The Night Circus. I was like, what's the hype? I don't get it. I love The Starless Sea. It's one of my favorite books of all time. Absolute favorite books of all time. And so I was really excited to read The Night Circus because I was like, this writing is fantastic. I will love anything she writes. I was wrong. I hated this book, and I think I hated it so much because of how much I love The Starless Sea. I kept this because it's pretty and because I do really appreciate the author. I think she's a very cool person, and I do want to continue to support her, which is why I have 3 copies of this. I had the copy that I originally bought and read, and then I have the American hardcover that I got at like a thrift sale or whatever in like perfect condition. I was like, okay, may as well add this to my collection. And then I supported the Illumicrate box because I wanted the merch, honestly. I may not love this book, but I love this aesthetic. And I love this idea of the Night Circus. It just, the book, the execution didn't work for me. I do think maybe I will reread this someday. I don't have plans to, and I don't think it'll be in the next like 5 years, but maybe in the next 10 years. It's pretty. Again, like I said, a lot of these I just keep because they're pretty. I wish I liked this one more. I think of all the books that I have today in this pile, this is the one I wish I liked the most. Finale by Stephanie Garber is the most disappointing conclusion to a trilogy I have ever read. And I read Allegiant. I adore Caraval and Legendary. They're so good. They're so freaking good. Like 5 stars, both of them. Absolutely love them. and I was stoked for finale. And I kept pushing it off because I was like, I have to be ready for this book. Like, I'm not ready for this book. It's gonna be awesome. It was horrible. There were continuity errors. The characters are making weird decisions. The plot seemed irrelevant. It went off on weird tangents, and the writing value, style, whatever, was not up to snuff compared to the first two books. I was so disappointed. It ruined the trilogy for me. Okay, it ruined the trilogy for me. I had lots of editions of this series. I had several editions. Now I have a couple editions of Caravel still because I like them, but I only have one copy of Legendary and I only have one copy of Finale, and that's these UK hardcovers. But I've never read a more disappointing finale to anything. And not only was Finale a disappointing ending, but Once Upon a Broken Heart was a disappointing book in general. I have a vlog up. I think it's a vlog. It might be a review. I'll link it. It was a stupid book. There were moments that I loved, but for the most part, it was a stupid book. And I have only kept it because they're so freaking pretty. This is the Fairy Loot edition, and Fairy Loot went like bonkers with it. I think that the under jacket is probably, or not the under jacket, the case is probably my favorite part, but under the jacket we have gorgeous art. You know, they're doing it above, and then even the end pages are just like stunning. Okay, I'm living for how pretty this book is. But I freaking hated this book. It was so disappointing. And I wish I knew why people liked it, but I don't. You know, there may come a day that I get rid of all my Stephanie Garber books, but that day will not come until I can get a good price for them. I will be finishing this series as long as it goes because the fallacy of sunk costs or whatever, I've already put so much into it. I just have to see how it ends, and maybe she'll do something to save it, but probably the most heartbreaking are those books, because when I say I loved Caravel and Legendary, I was not shutting up about those books. I read an arc of Caravel and was like, this is the best fucking thing I've ever read. Everyone's gonna love it. Everyone needs to read it. Oh my god. I told all my friends to read it. They all read it. They all loved it. And Legendary was the same way. And then Finale. And I was like, ooh, I'm so sorry I recommended this series to you. I'm probably gonna unhaul this at some point. This is probably the worst, the most heinous to myself example of just keeping something because it's pretty, and that is A Bone Crier's Moon by Catherine Purdy. I read it. It was just fine. It really wasn't my cup of tea. I didn't love it. But not only did I keep it because it was pretty, because it is. It's very pretty. It's got the shimmery edges. It's Fairy Loot, I think. But I actually bought book 2 in this matching edition because I was like, book 1 was pretty. At that point, I had already read this one and was like, yeah, I don't like it. I'm never going to reread it. Not for me. I still bought book 2. I shouldn't have done that. I regret doing that. It was a waste of money. But until I stopped feeling like I just sunk, what is it, $30, I'm going to hold on to them. It's a fine book. I don't not recommend it. It really wasn't it just wasn't for me. It was a little too immature, I guess. Not in a bad way, just I couldn't do anything with this book. Ooh, now we get into books that, okay, I'm keeping for other reasons. I have talked loads about how I will be unhauling the Bridgerton books by the end of this year. I am working on a vlog where I read them all, and then I want to do a giant review for the series. I freaking hate these books. I cannot wait to be rid of them. They just take up space, but it has been such a hassle to sit down and read another one of them because I just like them so much. I'm looking forward to sharing all my thoughts in depth because I have so many. It's going to be a long review when I get to it. But until then, they have to sit there. I have to wait them out. They're awful, though. A coworker just bought a bunch of them, and I didn't have the heart to be like, ooh. Because, you know, we all have our own tastes. But my review will make it very clear why I dislike them. But that's why I'm keeping them. They will be unhauled. They're not pretty. They're just a stain on my collection right now at this point. Court of Silver Flames. It doesn't take much to get me on my soapbox about this book and how much I hated it. I have a vlog. I have a review. I will link them both, or at least the review, because I think I do a little bit better describing why I hate it in there. This book was not just disappointing, but I thought it was offensive and actually a harmful book. I'm only keeping it because I love the original trilogy and I'm a completionist and I need it on my shelf. But honestly, in recent years, Sarah J. Maas has kind of moved from a place of power on my shelves to kind of being hidden by other things. Like, give me something to love again and you might move back. I just posted my vlog review of Crescent City 2 and it was okay, but it wasn't like enough to like save her from going to a shelf of doom. And finally, another book that was just so disappointing and that I read this year. To Paradise. This is Hanya Yanagihara's most recent book. Mostly it was just a bleak, drab, dry, disappointing attempt at 3 separate stories that kind of connect, but don't really. They could have worked individually, I think, but squishing them all into one novel sucked everything out of them. I do think it's a book that has a lot of discussion value and has a lot to give and is worth maybe going back through and parsing out pieces of. I'm not ready to do that, and until I attempt to do that, I don't really want to get rid of my copies of the book. I don't feel attached to it because of Hanya Yanagihara. I loved A Little Life, but this novel clearly makes it obvious that it's not her writing that I love necessarily. I loved her writing in that novel, but it's not like across the board her writing that I love. And so I'm just keeping it until I'm ready to fully tackle this book, which means, yes, I'll probably have to reread it at some point. And after that read, I will be getting rid of this book. And I do have a couple copies, but they'll probably all say bye-bye because I really don't have interest in keeping them all. It's probably going to be a little bit before I get the chance to like reparse the novel though. That's it. Those are the most disliked books I have on my shelves. Those are the books that, I mean, maybe someday I'll get rid of all of them. But for now, I am keeping them on my shelf and they will probably be staying on my shelf for the future couple years. Besides the Bridgerton books, those might go sooner. It's just, I really want to finish at least the vlog this year, even if it takes me another year to get to the review. Oh, because I have so much to say about these books, and I feel like I've been talking about these stupid videos that I've been wanting to make for ages, and I just need to finish them. But it's really hard to sit down and read something you hate when reading is supposed to be relaxing, so. If you liked this content and you want to see more like it, definitely consider subscribing. It would mean the world to me if you did. And if you are already subscribed, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. It's incredible that you want to hear me talk about anything at all. Thank you, thank you. If you are somewhere cold, I hope you're staying warm. If you are somewhere warm, I hope you're staying comfortable. And most of all, I hope you're reading a great book. I will see you guys next time. Bye!